Welcome back to another episode of Riding the Wall. Once again, I'm Chad,
I'm Justin.
and we're going to talk some more NASCAR. Last week, Darlington. I'm not going to go over everything about the race, but the ending caused a little conversation, controversy, whatever you want to call it. Very good race.
Excellent race.
Yeah, of course it's Darlington, so you always
Right.
expect a really good race, tight racing.
I prefer the night race there, just because I'm a nighttime setting kind of guy.
Yeah,
But I mean, it made for it. The retro race is always fun, but if I had to choose between the two, I'd go Southern 500 over the retro. Just because I like the nighttime.
yeah, just racing at night just has a whole different feel, and to me it's a much better feel.
Yeah, it gives you a small town feeling.
Yeah, anytime you're racing under the lights is just so much better. But so I'm going to go on a soapbox for just a minute here, because after Darlington, a few things happened that made me kind of scratch my head. Um, of course, if by now I'm sure everybody has seen the end of the race where on the first restart we had Larson was on the inside front row and Ross Chastain was on the outside front row, and those two kind of have a history, right, over the past few weeks. Um, and it didn't slow down at Darlington. So on the restart, Kyle Larson he holds Ross to the wall pretty tight all the way to the very end, the very last second, to where then he has to start turning.
Right. Being a talented driver.
Yeah, and he's the high line is the preferred line
Yep.
at Darlington, and Larson's on the inside, so he has to create
A
an
disadvantage.
right for Ross
Right.
or an advantage for himself, either way. So he kind of does both that by holding Ross to the wall. He takes
Without
the turn.
touching him.
Well, I think he, yeah, he's supposed to not touch him, but
Well, I mean, there's a difference between hitting them and holding them.
right, and he held him pretty tight. I'd say I know there was contact between the cars that Larson initiated. I don't recall if there was contact for Ross hitting the wall. I don't recall that. There may have been. I may be wrong. I don't know. But so we get that restart going, and then that's when we have the big wreck that takes out Truex and others, Logano and a few others, but and hurt Harvick's car pretty bad.
Yeah.
He was able to continue, but it definitely.
Harvick would have won that thing.
I think he
his
would have.
car would have been in the same shape
Yeah.
as everybody else's.
If he didn't get no damage from that wreck, I think he
Yeah.
probably would have won that race, or at least he would have been there to have something to say about it. So we have that wreck, and then we have another restart. So now we're swapping positions. Ross is on the inside, Larson's on the outside. And I don't fault Ross for doing what he did. He did the exact same thing to Larson that Larson did to him on the previous restart. He held him to that wall. There was contact. Um, I would chalk both of them up to racing contact. Both restarts.
But they were racing, in my eyes. They were racing. They wasn't
Yes. And at this point
being
now,
controversial. They were racing.
right, they were racing hard for the win at Darlington. It's just how it goes. And now we're under a green-white checker. So stakes are just a little bit higher than they were on the last restart. So Ross does the same thing to Larson that Larson did to him, holds him up to that wall. There's contact with the cars. May have been contact with Larson in the fence. I'm not sure. Don't recall definitively enough to say, but probably was. But that doesn't really matter at this point. So they come down into the turns 1 and 2. Ross takes the apron. He goes down so low, he's on the apron, and Larson stays high. So then Ross comes up to try to get position in front of Larson coming out of 2, right? That's just what you do at Darlington. He's doing what he's supposed to do. He goes up a little bit high, makes contact, takes himself out, takes Larson out, and then Byron goes around, ends up winning the race. So all of that is okay. It's racing. Ross got a little bit aggressive with his move coming from the apron all the way up to to Larson because he admitted after the race that, yeah, he tried to pinch him off so that way he could get that advantage, and had he got that advantage, he would have won the race.
Right.
But he didn't take into account that Larson had enough space there that he didn't have to back up. He didn't have to let off of it. He could hold his ground, and it was just a misjudgment on Ross's part, and he admitted that after the race. So here's where I get to my soapbox. Everybody, I don't know where I stand with Ross Chastain. In my mind, I don't know where I'm at, and I've never really felt like this about a driver before because I either like them or I don't like them. I don't really root against anybody, but there's a lot of them out there I don't really root for, right? So I've said this all along. I'm a Larson fan. I'm a big Kyle Busch fan now that he's on the Chevy side. He's on the good side of things. So those are my two drivers. Now, Larson and Ross Chastain for the past few weeks, month seems like, it has involved them too. And I think Larson was so pissed off that he just left. He didn't even give a post-race interview.
It's best to do that.
Yes.
You give them an hour, give them half an hour,
yes.
Something.
He's so pissed off, he just got on the plane and said, I'm out of here. I'm not talking about it today.
I mean, he's already got in trouble for his mouth once, and
mm-hmm.
It ruined his, at the time, it ruined his career.
Yeah.
So, I mean.
And maybe this was a lesson learned from that.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
Larson is, hands down, one of the top 3 to 5 most talented drivers on that track every week. It don't matter what course you put him on. I mean, it's too detrimental for that man's family to let his mouth ruin it.
Yeah.
And that's not just Kyle. That would be me and you as well. I wouldn't. I'd get kicked off a pit crew. You know what I'm saying? Because you'd hear my mouth all the way from the wall.
Right.
But go ahead. Sorry, Ted.
No, you're fine. But so I don't know where I stand with this guy because all of last year, we had the whole Ross Chastain, Denny Hamlin back and forth feud, right? And I thought that was kind of funny at the time. It was humorous to me, and that's kind of what the sport needed. Something to laugh at, whatever. And that came to a head earlier this year when Denny put him in the wall and then admitted to it, which I still believe that fine was a bunch of BS, but he admitted to it. But which goes back to my story from last week where I hit the guy after the checker flag. He never touched me again. Kind of same thing happened with Denny and Ross. Ross has not touched Denny since that happened because Denny showed him, hey, I will put you in the wall and I don't care to do it. You know, it don't bother me.
I'll even talk about it.
Yeah, I'll brag about it afterwards.
I'll pay
I don't
50
care.
grand to do it.
So that kind of seemed to end, but then after that, it seems like Ross has just been hitting anybody and everybody. I mean, he's hitting even people like Brennan Poole. He's been taking out Kyle Larson past few weeks. Even if he's not directly hitting Larson, he's hitting someone that ends up taking Larson out, right? So we get all that, and everybody says if you're going to drive like that, just own it. And I agree with that.
Yeah.
If you're going to be that aggressive, own it. So this week at Darlington, that's kind of what he did. He said, yeah, I meant to pinch him to the wall. I didn't mean to wreck him. I didn't mean to spin myself out. Just got a little tight there. So he owned up to it. So I applaud him for that. But at the same time, he's taking my driver out, so I don't like him for that. But he's coming around. He's
evolving.
Yes, he's learning. He's unfortunately he's learning by making these mistakes, but he is learning, and if you're going to be that aggressive, like everybody says, and like I said, I agree with, own up to it, and he's starting to do that, right? So, and then we go back to 2 weeks ago at Kansas when post-race activity with him and Gregson, the one-punch fist fight and he even said after that, my team owner says, this team don't back down from nobody. Okay, I applaud that too. Hey, if you're gonna run with the big boys, you better be a big boy.
Yep.
And that's what he's doing. He's doing that the whole time. So now we're kind of getting a glimpse into the windows of the Trackhouse garage, right? You got Justin Marks, team owner, saying we're not going to back down from nobody. And that's exactly what his drivers are doing every week. And it seems to be getting Ross in trouble because he's doing what his team owner wants him to do. So now, post Darlington, Larson jumps on the plane for his benefit and gets out of Dodge. You got Rick and Jeff, Rick Hendrick, Jeff Gordon, doing the post-race interviews, right? They're taking questions. And somebody asked Rick about Chastain and the way he's driving, his aggressiveness, and taking Larson out week after week. And he I don't have the quote right here in front of me, but to sum it up, he says he's not going to win a championship by doing that. He's making too many enemies out there. He just don't have. He's got all the skills in the world. He just don't have the talent to do it right. Basically, to sum it up, that's not the exact words that he used. And then somebody else asked about, is Chevy going to intervene? Which, my opinion, Chevy don't need to intervene. But it is weird that Chastain just keeps taking out Chevrolets week after week. So once that question got asked, Rick Hendrick says, I don't give a damn if it's Chevrolet, Toyota, or Ford. Somebody's going to take my drivers out. I'm going to tell my drivers stand their ground. We're not going to play this game. To sum it up again. And he looked like he was mad. Obviously, I don't know Rick Hendrick personally, but he looked mad. He sounded a little...
He should be.
Yeah, he should be. His answers were short and to the point.
That's his and Jeff's money out there.
Yes. Yes. And so Rick says all that right after the race on Sunday, and then first thing Monday morning on Sirius XM, they were talking with Justin Marks. So now Justin Marks says, we're having difficult conversations with Ross Chastain. There's a few things that he needs to clean up, a few things that he needs to do a little bit better and improve on, and we're starting to have those conversations with him now. So this is where I get to my whole point. Don't be a hypocrite. Don't give your drivers rules that you can't follow as a team. Practice what you preach. If you're going to tell your drivers that we don't back down from anybody, then you need to do the same thing. Just because Rick Hendrick spoke, why is that any different than any other driver?
Why is that different than Rick Ware or the Wood brothers or...
Right, or Joe Gibb maybe last year with the whole Denny Hamlin thing. You know, although Joe Gibb never spoke out about it, and Rick finally did, it's just kind of showing the hypocrisy of Justin Marks, where you're going to tell your drivers, go out here and you run in the front. I don't care what you got to do to get there. If that's exactly what he told him, of course I don't know. And then once a little bit of heat comes your way and you know, it starts getting a little bit warm in your seat, now all of a sudden you're going to start backing down from someone like Rick Hendrick, who is technically your equal as far as title goes.
Right, as far as job title, yeah.
Right, as far as job title. Obviously, Justin Marks is not Rick Hendrick.
Rick's got a lot more skin in the game. You know, He's been around a lot longer. He's got a lot more experience. Probably a lot more respected just from his time and endurance in the sport.
Yeah.
You know.
So when Rick talks, everybody listens, obviously, and that's to be expected.
Absolutely.
And it always will from this point forward.
I don't ever turn his call down.
No,
you know?
No, you got to answer that call every time. And that's just my whole point to being on this soapbox for however long I've been on it now, is the hypocrisy of Justin Marks, who, if I'm a team owner, yes, I want to run with the big boys. I want to be the big boys. I want to be the team that everybody's talking about. And if that's the approach that I'm going to take, that we're not backing down, well, by God, if my driver's out there in a fist fight on pit road, guess who's going to be right there with him?
Right.
I'm going to be right there throwing too.
But, you know, it's odd, too. I mean, that Justin Marks is the only one saying this, but he's got, just like Rick Hendricks has Jeff Gordon as a shareholder, a business partner, Justin Marks has Pitbull, Mr. Worldwide.
Yeah.
You know, what's his take on it? You know, if you're going to be in the sport, be in the sport. You know what I mean? So
right. Just like Michael Jordan is.
Right. Michael Jordan doesn't give two shits. You know, he'll say exactly how he feels, and he's got skin in that game. You know, I mean, before his first sit-down interview with Bubba Wallace, one of his drivers, he told him, just remember, I don't write paychecks to losers. And we've talked about this on previous episodes, but that's how Michael Jordan thinks, and that's how Michael Jordan speaks. And that's a good thing. I want black and white. I don't want any gray area. I want you to say, I'm your team owner. This is what I want. Now, if you tell me this behind closed doors, I expect you to have my back when we go out on the track.
Exactly.
100%. If you don't, when contract negotiations come up, we're looking at other
Then
options.
you start having trust issues.
Yeah,
You know, I
absolutely.
mean, you're throwing me out here on this track. You're giving me great equipment. I'm showing you what I can do as far as talent wise. But if there's the slightest bit of controversy, I expect you to be the first one to speak on my behalf. I'll do what I need to do on the track or in pit road, but when things get crazy in the media or meetings or whatever, I expect you to have my back 100%. And that don't seem to be where we're at now.
Right,
It seemed to be that that's how it was until Rick spoke.
right.
So why is Justin Marks all of a sudden backing down? He's not practicing what he's preaching, and that to me takes a little bit of respect away from Justin Marks as far as how I view it.
Yeah. Now, as far as Ross goes, I like Ross Chastain. I do.
Hmm.
I think he's a talent. Um, I think he's a young talent. I think he's got some maturing to do, like a lot of guys on that track. You're going to have that in every sport. But what I think Ross needs to do is Ross is fast every week. And again, just like Kyle Larson, we was talking about, no matter what track you put him on, he's fast.
And he's a threat to win.
Right. I mean, he's won at Talladega. He's won road courses. He's won mile and a halfs. I mean, the dude can drive.
Yeah.
I think what would help Ross the most is he needs to work on his finesse.
Yes.
Because every talented driver has to. You have to be fast. You have to know how to drive fast, and you have to know how to listen to your spotters. Um, have to know how to listen to your crew chief. But the fact is, he has fast cars every week. Now, me and you could go out there, put that thing in high gear, and hold that pedal down and go around a track.
Right.
We could do that.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So, but if you watch and you've paid attention to the talented drivers, take Kyle Busch for instance. You know, he's a perfect example. That guy can weave in and out of traffic and let off and hold down exactly at the right times. And that's what you have to be good at to win a championship and to also keep those relationships on the track healthy.
Yeah.
So if Ross Chastain needs to work on anything, to me it's his finesse because he's got all the talent in the world to make it.
And the equipment.
Right, and it's
Hmm.
obvious he's got the equipment. He's got all the tools to have a damn good career, but every athlete has something they need to improve on,
Hmm.
and his is finesse.
Yes, because in order to win that championship or win that race, you have to have a car that's there at the end.
Right.
And if you don't have that finesse, you're just out there beating the tar out of your car.
You got five enemies on that track. That car ain't gonna be worth a shit at the end.
Right.
Promise you.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. And even if they're not hitting your car, it's kind of like what Larson did at Dover. He's going to hold you up long enough that you ain't going to have a
You're gonna wreck
chance
it.
at winning.
You're gonna wreck it yourself.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. So that's just, I don't know. I was thinking about that, yesterday, just sitting around random thoughts because that's what goes through my head all the time. Just
Yeah, it
random
was
stupid
weird.
stuff.
When you called me and you was like, "Hey, I need to talk to you about." He was in the shower and he's like, "I need to call you. I've been thinking about Ross Chastain." I'm like, "Why are you thinking about Ross in the shower for, Chad? It's weird, man. You just."
Now you're telling
not,
my secrets.
not really. I just had to
But no,
have some fun with Chad.
I was thinking about that and I thought, wow, if my boss told me to go out here and do this and then as soon as I do it, he's going to cower, that's, it tells me a lot about my boss. So,
Right. He's probably gonna get stunned in the parking lot.
yeah,
And I don't mean stun gun. I mean a stone cold stunner.
stone cold stunner.
Right.
Yeah, well, yeah. But that's what I was thinking about that and I just wanted to get that out there. I just wanted to
Vent. Yeah.
vent about it because
That's a really good observation and opinion, though. I mean, it was, a lot of people have probably seen the headlines and read a little bit or listened to a little bit about it, but no, I think you hit that nail right on the head.
and I haven't heard anybody else say that. You hear, of course, all week long, it's just dominated the news as far as NASCAR goes, the whole Ross Chastain stuff. And nobody ever, that I know of, pointed out the hypocrisy there of Justin Marks. So that's going to be something interesting that I'm going to pay attention to. And I kind of know why he did it, because he's driving, his team is putting out Chevy cars, Chevy products, but their engine comes from Rick Hendrick, right? Almost every Chevy on that track is built by Rick Hendrick
Right.
and their engine building partners, which I believe Richard Childress has part in that. So that's why he don't want to piss off Rick, because that's where he's getting his engines at. But if I'm Rick, as soon as that race is over, I'm going to put every one of them damn engines that are done and ready to go out on a dyno. Might tune a couple of them down about 20 horsepower and send them to the one team, Say, here you go, son. You ain't catching nobody now. But no, that's just my observation. I wanted to get that out there, and I just want to see what your thoughts were on that.
I like it.
But
I think you're right on the money with that.
But another thing with Darlington is you see that manufacturer tally there at the top of that board. Chevy gets another one.
And another one being the number 24 car, 100th win.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, that was 100th win for the 24 car. Now I think Jeff got 92 of those.
Yeah.
But you know what? I mean, William Byron, man, he's young and he's quiet. And I know you have bad luck with him in the fantasy.
Every time.
In
And
the
I almost
fantasy
picked
world.
him. I almost picked him.
Well, I wish you would have, because he wouldn't have won.
Yeah,
so.
that's true.
But I tell you what, William Byron he's doing great this year. What is that? His third win this
Third
year?
win this year,
I mean,
yeah.
that's fantastic for a young guy.
Yeah.
And I'm not a Chevy guy, but I'm a fan of, I love to see these young guys doing good. And,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I think Noah Gregson will do really good once he's in.
Gets a haircut.
Well, once he lets it grow out a little bit, or just shave it all the way off. But you can't go to Victory Circle with a bowl cut. But that brings Chevy to 8. Brings Chevy to 8 wins. Toyota 4 wins. Ford still has 1. Got any thoughts on that? You need to go call somebody, tell them how to tune them cars up, or what?
No, they'll get it.
You think they'll
Smoke's
find
on it. Smoke's on it. Don't worry about that.
Okay, I don't
I mean,
know.
I know he's got his head in the drag world right now.
Yeah.
But Smoke knows who to call.
All right.
So I'll leave it in their hands. Penske's good. All them guys know what they're doing. Keselowski, I almost took him for the race, and I wish I would have. He got 4th, and last week when we talked, you asked who could win this race at Darlington, and Brad was one of them that I mentioned.
Yeah.
And I mean, he performed. He was, like I said. I mean, he wasn't up front the whole race. He was hovering there in 15th to 12th for a while, but it don't matter where you start, right?
Yep, that's right.
But for him to get 4th, I was pretty impressed with that. But it's a rough year for Ford, but they'll get there.
Yeah. Well, my whole race, I was watching it, and I picked Denny Hamlin to win, but and statistically, he's the best one at Darlington. Well, he just did nothing but drop back, and I kept waiting and waiting and waiting for him to make this move. And for once, his crew didn't screw him over. They didn't make any mistakes that, as far as I know of, on pit road, but he just didn't have the car to do anything, and he just kept falling back and falling back. And if it wasn't for those late race wrecks that was taking everybody out, well, he was so far back he could just slow down, drive through them.
Right.
Ended up finishing 12th or something like that.
Well, I mean, I took Tyler Reddick, and he was doing great the whole race. He was staying right up there in the top 5. The whole race until that.
And because he was in the top 5 is why he got in that wreck. Yeah.
Exactly.
So.
And I mean, I don't know if a lot of people see it or not, but you kind of touched on this a little bit ago when we started this podcast. But I mean, to me, which driver's doing more for Ford than anybody?
Who's that?
Ross Chastain.
Yeah.
He keeps wrecking the Chevys,
Yeah, you're right.
He's Ford's MVP this year so far.
Yeah, I do think Ford's going to get him a win this weekend at the All-Star race.
It's $1 million on it, bud.
$1 million on the line. That's going to be a damn good race.
And I'll tell you right now who I think is going to take this All-Star race.
Go ahead.
Ryan Blaney.
Really?
I
You
do.
think he's going to make it 2 in a row?
I do. And I'm not saying that because he won last year. Just Ryan fits this format really well. And it's almost like he don't have that chip off his shoulder yet, that monkey off his back of not having that win yet. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he can go out there and no weight on his shoulders. That's just, this race fits his personality so well. And, I mean, the kid is fast.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's a fantastic racer. And, when Kevin Harvick, sits at, he's retiring this year. It's his last go around on the track. And, Blaney and Briscoe are going to be my guys. Blaney's awesome. I liked him since he started.
Blaney.
But Briscoe, he's a Stewart Haas driver and hometown kid.
Yeah.
Gotta love it.
He's slipping a little. I think we need to break a finger.
Well,
I mean, he seems to drive damn good with 9 fingers.
Yeah, I'm not above that. When we see him in Bristol this year again.
Got to.
I'm not above.
Wait till after he gives you an autograph, and then just grab that hand and just break one or 2. He might win. You break 2.
Right.
So.
And if I like you and appreciate you and want you to do well, a broken finger is a small price.
Right.
We've talked about what happens to people I don't like. They get ass punched, and that's been on a couple of these discussions. And
still looking for that taker.
Right. Nobody can drive with an ass punch. And
so you think Blaney might win this weekend at the All-Star race?
I do.
I'll tell you who I think's going to win it. I think Joey Logano's going to win it. Ford guy. I don't normally say a Ford's going to win, but...
Well, it's North Wilkesboro. No driver out there on this circuit has drove on this track in a NASCAR yet.
Right.
So
and every time we do something new, Bristol Dirt, the Clash at the Coliseum, who wins that first one?
Yeah, it's always Logano.
It's always Logano. I don't know what he's doing, what his secret is, but he has some kind of power over these new races.
But, one thing, and I'm not a Logano fan, we've talked about this a lot, but I respect him. I
do now.
I respect him as far as he's a talent. But I feel like maybe he just learns... Well, he feels that track. He learns that track so much faster than the people on the track with him.
Yeah.
I feel like he can pick out the fast line very quick, and he knows how to communicate with his crew really good on how to. Hey, when I come in, this is what I need to do for my car for the long haul.
Right.
So.
I think. I just think it's going to be a very fun race. There's been 2 races that I really circled on my calendar and I've been looking forward to all year long, since last year. Number 1 was the Bristol Fall race, because we're going to be there, and that's always an exciting race.
Well, I think we might even get to give the Start Your Engines command this year.
We might. Stay tuned. You never know. But I look forward to that Bristol race. And I've looked forward to this race at North Wilkesboro just because it's North Wilkesboro and everything that surrounds it,
Yep.
And I think it's going to be
Well, you and I remember North Wilkesboro.
Yeah, we are old enough to... We watched that last race. Unfortunately, Jeff Gordon won, but...
Yeah. But, I mean, Jeff's another one of them talents that a lot of people don't like him, but you got to respect him.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I mean, that guy, 92 wins, that's insane. And... but just like how I was talking, Ross needed that finesse. It's like when Jeff came into NASCAR, he already had it. I mean, he was fast, he had finesse, he was the golden child. He come in and you've got the Dark Knight, the Intimidator, Dale Senior,
right?
And he was just the perfect fit to that. So I mean, if it would have been somebody like Ross that came in to the Intimidator into NASCAR, it wouldn't have lasted no time.
No.
It wouldn't. It would have been squashed and
2 weeks.
never talked about in 2 weeks. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
And especially in that time period.
Oh yeah, Dale would have put him through the wall. He wouldn't have put
Right,
him into the wall. He wouldn't have put him over the wall. He'd have put him through the wall
right,
and said, "Touch me again, boy."
right.
And
and
that's what I'm waiting for right now. I'm waiting for.
and Ross would have still somehow ended up apologizing to Dale for it. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? I'm sorry, sir.
And then just happen to hit him again next week. But and I had a point that I was getting ready to make about Ross. You know, you say he needs that finesse, but and I agree with that 100%. You're absolutely right. But when you've got a team owner that says if
Yep.
they give you 1 inch, you take two. What are you supposed to do? You know, he's doing now. We're seeing that he's been doing everything he's been told to do. I mean, hell, even his own teammate got mad at him earlier this year.
Yep.
So that tells you a lot. The heat should be more on Justin Marks, just as much as it is on Ross Chastain, because his actions are speaking volumes as far as Ross on the track.
Absolutely.
But now we're seeing where it's coming
But
from.
you know, just like one of these young drivers, um, Justin Marks was a new owner. You know.
Yeah.
What, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
So you're one. You hit that nail on the head, just like I said a while ago. But um, I'm going to say give him a minute to learn his environment. I feel like he's pushing the envelope right now, but this past week he pushed too far and he learned it.
Yeah.
So, um, I've Justin Marks may look at Rick Hendricks like a mentor. He very well may. We don't know, but
And there's nothing wrong with that.
no, absolutely not. I mean, if you're going to have a mentor in this sport, I mean that's a damn good one.
Yep.
So, um, I'm going to say let's see how it folds out and see what Justin learns from this, and maybe it'll make the team better. Maybe it needed to happen,
Yeah.
and it maybe it wouldn't have benefited coming from anybody but Rick, because he is that guy to Justin Marks, So
That's a good point.
yeah,
It's a good point. You know, it had Joe Gibbs.
I was scared to death this year that Ty Gibbs, and I talked about it early in this season. Ty Gibbs, he had this notorious reputation in the Xfinity Series just to plow over everybody, put his own teammates in the wall, just being a dick, you
Yeah.
know. And I wasn't looking forward to this kid coming into the sport at all, not one bit. He's on Grant Paul's team. He's a kind of a dick out there to even his own teammates. And I don't know this kid,
Right.
but he's obviously got some level of talent.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I'll say he's proven me wrong. I haven't been very vocal about Ty Gibbs this year. I haven't spoke a lot about him, but he's put it out there in front of me to where I've got a level of respect for the kid right now. I do.
I agree with
And,
that.
He's went out there. He's raced every week. He hasn't made any headlines, good or bad.
Right.
But
I don't think he's touched anybody that I
Right.
could tell.
Right.
You know.
But the way his season ended last year was great on one hand, horrible on another. With
Yeah.
him losing his father, it's a horrible situation. But he won the Xfinity Championship. But the way it all happened was, I mean, even his own teammates wanted to kick his ass,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't be like that at the Monster Energy level, because you're going out there with guys that are old enough to be your dad, and they will put a boot in your ass.
Yeah.
And he has changed my opinion of him so far this year. He's went out there and he's learned. He's watching these guys in front of him. He ain't won nothing, but I don't hold that against him. He's behind these guys, watching how they're doing this. He's learning every week, and
Mm-hmm.
you know it just like I know it. 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 4 years from now, this kid might be winning twice a month.
Yeah, he might be doing the same thing that Larson's doing right now.
Right. And, for, I kind of look at Ty Gibbs and Justin Marks right now in the same light. Justin Marks just been there for a couple years longer at this level, and maybe he overstepped.
Yeah.
And, maybe he's sitting in the garage right now thinking, team meeting, we need to discuss this.
And that's a pretty good comparison. I never really thought of it like that. That's a really good comparison. And along the lines of what you just said, I think Marks has, when you step into that, you make that commitment to become an owner, you got a lot on your shoulders. And I think maybe he didn't anticipate this much success this quickly. Maybe he thought it's going to take 5 years before I'm running with Rick Hendrick.
Right.
Or 3 years or whatever the case may be. He was running right out of the gate. They were running with him. And that has something to do with these new cars. But yet it also has something to do with the drivers that you have.
Right. Because, you look at, Brad Doherty's team. You look at the Wood Brothers team. These guys have been around for years.
Yeah.
Especially the Wood Brothers. And they're not... even, what is it, Richard Petty Racing, what is it now?
Legacy Motor
Racing.
Club.
Right, Legacy Motor Club.
I still call it Petty.
Right, but you look at teams like this that have been around for years, and they're not competitive every week. And then you've got Trackhouse, who comes in 2 years ago, and
they come kicking in the door like the party guys,
right?
Yeah,
like the cops.
Yeah.
Screw the party guys. They
Yeah.
come in like the fucking police. It's
we're here and we're gonna show you what we can do.
right, and good for them on
Yeah.
that.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe it was just like you said, too much success too quick, and they got confident. They got the ego that unfortunately sometimes goes with that.
Yeah.
And I could see a lot of people I know being like, screw it, boys. Don't back down from nobody. We own this track. We're the big dog now. And he just bit off more than he can chew once Rick spoke up.
Yeah. And I'm not faulting that attitude at all. That's the attitude that you need to have to get to the top level and to stay at the top level. I don't care who you are. You get in my way, you're in my way, and we're gonna take care of that on the track. And I love that attitude.
The finesse is what makes the difference.
Yes, that finesse.
When you can do it without causing any of the other people on the track problems, you're going to be a champion.
Yes, and it won't take long for Ross to be a champion.
Right, if he learns that skill.
If he learns that finesse, like you said. And that perfect example is Dover when he ran over Brendan Poole. We were, 60 laps into the race? Who cares if Larson is coming up on you? Let Larson go.
Right.
Race him at the end of the race. You don't have to plow over people just to stay in front of Larson right now. Who cares? It's a long race. Let him go. Race him at the end. And that's another one of those lessons that he's going to have to learn. That lap 65 is not the time to just demo derby your way to the front.
There's no checkers on 65.
Right. Lap 65 don't pay nothing.
Right.
Lap 400 pays a lot of money. So
right.
Let's be there on that lap rather than 65. But that's one of those things that he's going to learn. And like you said, I think Justin Marks is also going through some learning curve right now, courtesy of Rick Hendrick and his...
he's lucky it was Rick and not Smoke.
That's true.
Rick, to be as successful as a businessman as Rick Hendricks is, and Jeff Gordon, for that matter, you have to have a set of balls on you to make these decisions, make these calls, stand your ground, know when to hold them, know when to fold them. Smoke,
he's just gonna punch you right in the eye.
Yeah, Smoke's he's just gonna give it to you and walk away. You know, so. Justin Marks, if you are listening.
I'm sure he is.
Yeah.
I'm sure he is.
Yeah. Be glad it was Rick that you're learning from right now.
Yeah. Yeah, Rick and Jeff are going to take a totally different approach than Tony Stewart. So, but
that's why I love Tony, though.
That's true. That's why he's one of the great ones, you know.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
we don't want to see him leave NASCAR because we need that character.
Yeah, we need that
That guy,
personality, that reputation, and
yeah,
that
he can wear the white hat, but he damn sure not afraid to rip that white hat off and throw a black one on and be the bad guy if he needs to be
right.
in front of everybody.
Yeah,
He don't care.
I love that about him.
Yeah,
So he knows that.
yeah.
We talk all the time.
But so we've talked about Wilkesboro and who we think is gonna win. Um, what are some of the things that you're expecting to see from this weekend? You know, what are
Just like you touched on a while ago, I'm expecting to see a lot of fun. I'm expecting to see a lot of drivers relaxed, laughing. They'll take it serious because they can't not take it serious. It's
right?
their, it's in them, But I
And you
think,
throw $1 million on the line to the winner.
well, I tell you what,
That's a hell of a payday,
yeah, there ain't much I wouldn't do for $1 million.
right?
You know, I can name two things I wouldn't do for $1 million, but
Part of me wants to ask, but part of me don't.
one of them is I'd never lay a hand on my mama for $1 million.
Right.
I can't talk about the other
Right.
one. So,
I think just the way the whole thing is set up this week at Wilkesboro makes it interesting. You know, you got the pit crew challenge decides the qualifying order. I like that. I like that after lap 100, you're only allowed to put on one set of sticker tires, so that's going to put a lot of strategy into it. Um, and it's a short track.
The Friday night pit crew challenge
Yeah.
is new this year too. That's going to determine who gets the front two spots on pit road
Yeah.
come the All-Star race. And that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, there ain't no qualifying, ain't no drawing, or previous results, any of that shit going on. I think it's cool that they're involving the whole team in it.
Yeah. Yeah, and to have the two heat races, that's cool. It's going to give it that Saturday night feel. um, the only complaint that I have, and it's not really a complaint, for me, it's just something that I would rather see. I would rather see this versus that. And these heat races are 60 laps long. I would rather see 4 heat races, divide these cars up a little bit more, because I don't know how many guys are going to be in these heat races. I haven't looked too much into that, but half the field's in one heat race, half the field's in the other heat race.
Right.
I would like to see more of maybe a 25 lap heat race. So that way, there's a little bit more urgency on the track. There's going to be a little bit more contact. It's going to have that short track feel. You're establishing the starting order for $1 million race. You know how crazy and hectic that can be in 25 laps. Then, after those 25 laps, whatever damage you've done on the track, you've got, and let's put a time limit on it. Let's do all of this in one night, so that way, after that heat race, you've got half an hour to thrash on that car to get back out there for the feature or the actual All-Star race, which creates more of a Saturday night feel in my mind, because
I like it.
that's how these local guys are, man. When you go to the local track, like when we go to Brownstown, you see that guy that barely makes the feature, or he just one spot away from the feature and he's got to go through the consi. He's thrashing on that car because he knows what's wrong with it. He's got to fix it, and he's got a limited amount of time to do it. I love that thrash, and I love walking through the pits and seeing these guys and crews. Some of them are just by themselves. It's one guy bringing the car over and working on himself, or you might have 4 or 5 guys helping him, but they're thrashing on that thing. And as they're calling you to the lineup chute, they're just now throwing on the hood, because they just barely made it, and then they're rushing up there to get there. And the whole time, that driver's just hoping like hell that whatever fixes that they just did works. I would love to see a little bit of that.
Yeah, because I mean, you do 4 heat races. I mean, you're talking about 8 to 10 cars per heat race, and that would be pretty damn cool.
In a 25 lap race, would it not be awesome
on a half mile?
Yeah.
I mean,
I would love that.
That would be awesome. And you don't draw which heat you're going to be in until.
Well, go ahead.
Until just before the start your engines command. You got all however many of these cars lined up down through there, however many is going to race, and you divide that by 4, or even 3 would be cool, 3 or 4.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree with you on the 4, but when all these teams and all these cars are lined up down pit row, and you go down there and say draw a number, it's got 10 ones, 10 twos, 10 threes, and 10 fours in it. Whatever number you draw, that's what heat you're in.
Mm-hmm.
Because now your team hasn't had time to adjust the car for more rubber on the track or less rubber on the track.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, or what time of day it is. Is it 4 p.m. or is it 8 p.m.?
Yeah.
When it's cooler. So,
yeah.
I like that. That would be a fun format.
Mm-hmm. And I'm okay with seeing the pit crew challenge establishing a list. Like, I don't know, let's say there's going to be 30 cars in this all-star race, right? So you've got these maybe 35, 36 cars show up for this race. Some of them are going to be packing up and going home, just like on the Saturday night track.
Yep.
This pit crew challenge establishes, as far as their time, a list from 1 to 38. And that's the order that you guys are going to run your heat races. Or, like you said, because of this time, you may be in the first heat race or the second heat race or the third, whatever. We don't know until these guys. And it's all just boom, boom, boom. You do the pit crew challenge, then you're feeding right in. You've got maybe 20 minutes so that the scorers can get the list together. And then as soon as that list is posted, we're heat racing. You don't have a clue who's in your heat race. You don't have a clue where you're starting in that heat race until about 10 minutes before the race starts.
Right.
And then it's like, oh shit, give me my helmet, we got to go. And then you go out there, you run that heat race. And then after the heat races are done, make it 4 heat races, 25 laps apiece. Because that gives you the urgency. If you're starting towards the back of that heat race, you've got to get to the front quick and stay there. It puts that urgency. It's going to give that short track feel. You're going to get a lot of contact. You're going to get a lot of tempers flaring, stuff like that. And then as soon as you come off the track,
well, when you're in a 25 lap shootout, those guys are in the front 4. All they got to do is maintain their speed, so they got a good draw. But then you got 5 or 6 cars behind you that are trying to get in that front 4 so they can make it to the feature. Now, those are going to be the ones that piss you off. You know what I mean? But that's where the excitement comes in and the personalities come in. And somebody like Ross Chastain, who we've talked about pretty much this whole episode, he can't be mad at anybody putting him in the wall, because last year he put himself in the wall and made it to the championship 4.
right?
How you gonna get mad at me for putting you in the wall when you put your own fucking car in the wall and made it work?
Yeah.
So somebody like Ross is gonna do excellent at that, whereas somebody like Chase Elliott, who goes out there and he's consistent every week unless he got hurt, and you can always expect him to run up in the top. Every week in, week out. He's just gonna cruise. He's gonna buy his time. He's gonna race like a professional, and he's gonna make it to the feature. But then, like I said, you got these cannonballs behind you that just want to make it hard on you, and they're doing everything they can to get that $1 million.
Can you imagine a Ross Chastain starting in the back of a heat race?
Good.
That's gonna be exciting to
be
watch.
Entertainment,
that would be so much fun in my mind, to make the whole thing just a one night short track feel. And especially do it at a place like Wilkesboro,
right,
where we've anticipated this for a couple years now, would just be, oh man, that would be amazing.
Yeah, it would.
That'd be amazing.
It'd be fun. A lot of fun.
It'd be way fun.
And stuff like that is what's going to keep the fans going to these races and the all-star races. It's all about fun. There's no pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Granted.
Well, it is for the drivers, because they want that $1 million check.
Right. Every team out there wants that $1 million check. But, in the end, they're pretty chill and relaxed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, it's There's no points involved. There's no manufacturer's points involved. There's nothing like that going on. So
Right.
you get that breath off your neck for a little bit, and they can just go out there and they can do their best. And there's only going to be one winner. I mean, there's not going to be any stage points. There's not going to be any second, third, fourth place points. There ain't going to be none of that.
Nope.
You won and walk away.
Winner take all.
Yep.
And
I
that's
love it.
and just the excitement that would bring. It would just that'd be amazing. And I've been saying it all year. I would like to see Wilkesboro come back as a points race. But even if they don't bring it back as a points race, even if it stays as just the All-Star race every year, I'm fine with that. But I think there's still a few tweaks that we can make to make it more
And
exciting.
I think it'll happen. I think after this race, I think you'll see Wilkesboro back on the circuit.
I think so too, because it's.
Maybe
I'm not the only one that's had this anticipation.
right, right.
You know.
But like there's been talks about Rockingham being relaunched. Maybe this year we do it at North Wilkesboro, and next year it gets added to the circuit. Maybe next year we say Rockingham, we're going to do the All Star race here, and the following year it gets added to the circuit. You know what I'm saying? That'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
Get that money rolling in. I mean, because we, you and I sitting here talking about it. We love the nostalgia of NASCAR. We love all the drivers and the sport as a whole itself, but it takes the big picture. Is it as a businessman? It takes money. I mean, no matter how many people you got out there working on that track, no matter how much the fans love a certain track, it takes money to do all this.
Yeah.
So maybe this is the way they go about it.
Yeah, because and like you said with that point, Bristol didn't start as a coliseum.
Right.
It started as a short track. Just one side of the track had a few stands, bleachers.
Yep.
And it built to where it is now. And I think. Like you said, with the business aspect of it, year after year, if everybody is just wanting to bring this North Wilkesboro back, it could be in that same conversation as a Bristol, because it has that short track feel. It started to where it is now. Well, started where it is now. That don't make sense, but it is where it is now. But it can be so much more, if they just allow it to grow. I don't expect it to be at the level of Bristol, and I'm not saying that, but there's so much potential there that they can unlock, and I think that would be incredible if they did. And like you said, I would love to see a lot of these old tracks that they used to run on come back just for nostalgia purposes. And it throws the drivers off, because like you said, there's not a driver out there right now that ran at North Wilkesboro in a Cup car.
Right.
They're getting their feet wet this week with all these cars and the Cars Tour and these other series that are running there. But
I bet Larry Mack's phone hasn't shut off.
Oh no,
hasn't been silent all week.
Open up that book to North Wilkesboro.
Because if there's anybody with any sense, team owners, crew chiefs, drivers, it don't matter. If anybody out there has any sense in that sport that has skin in the game, they've been blowing up Larry Mack.
Oh yeah. Definitely be the first person I'd be calling.
Yeah.
Because that North Wilkesboro folder in his file cabinet is just chock full of good stuff.
Oh yeah. And he's got that folder too. But I can bet you, I'd bet you money, he wouldn't even have to open that folder.
No, he'd know it by heart.
Yep. It's all upstairs.
I agree. Well, that's my excitement for Wilkesboro. Is there anything on top of that you're looking forward to, you're wanting to see, expecting to see?
No, I just look forward to a fun, relaxing weekend.
Yeah.
Just like these drivers do.
And I hope we don't have a Ross Chastain story for next week. I want to see that guy just have maybe 2 or 3 weeks of just chill racing. Just go out there, do your job, and that's it.
Right.
I think his job would be a lot more fun if he just did that.
Right, but I mean, just hitting on that again. I mean, he's got the equipment to run up front every week, and we know he can do it. But in order for him to have that stress-free week, he's got to learn that finesse.
Yeah.
And there ain't no two ways about it. I mean, this ain't something I watched him in one race and said, hey, this kid needs to learn this. It ain't nothing about that. We've watched him for a few years now. Hell of a talent. I ain't taking nothing away from the guy, but he needs to learn that finesse. He needs to learn when to hold it down, when to let off, when to. I don't. Maybe it's a spotter issue. I don't know. I mean,
Could be. I mean, we don't know where the
but
problem is
and
exactly.
maybe he's not the type of guy to put his spotter under the bus.
No,
I mean, we don't know.
I mean, it
But
took him this long just to put his team owner out there and said, "Hey, this is what my guy said. This
right.
is what I'm going to do."
So maybe they need to look internally. Maybe Ross needs to work on his finesse a little bit. We don't know. So
Yeah.
only thing it'll tell us will be
Time.
yeah. We keep watching every week.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I'm still waiting on Smoke to call me, get in the car one weekend, and when I'm out there with Ross, I can tell you exactly what his problem is.
yeah,
I teach him a thing or two.
I guarantee it.
Yeah.
Show him the Indiana way of racing.
Our HR department probably wouldn't let that happen.
I think he might let it slide once or
You
twice.
think so?
I think he might. I mean, he's not as bad as we make him out to be, but
No, but we put him in that pit crew box upstairs.
Oh, Lord.
Put the microphone on him to where,
that would be an interesting. I would definitely tune into that radio.
absolutely. He'd tell you what to do, and
Yeah.
he'd stand behind it. I promise you that.
I guarantee that. Yeah, that is true. That is true. I'm looking forward to, after this Wilkesboro race, then we get back to business.
The Coke 600.
Coke 600 Memorial Day weekend.
Is anybody doing the double this year? The Indy 500 that morning and flying to the
Not
Coke
that I'm
600?
aware of. I think Larson's doing it next year. Kyle Busch may be doing it next year.
Because I know Kurt Busch has done it recently. Tony Stewart done it. Jimmy Johnson. I don't think he ever pulled the trigger
Jimmy
on
did
that.
it.
But that's probably the most recent ones, Kurt Busch and Tony Stewart.
Yeah.
But
I remember Stewart did it a few times,
yeah,
didn't
he did.
Kurt might have done it a few times.
Yeah.
But yeah, next year will be that, which that'll be a whole nother big story there. But yeah, looking forward to Charlotte. Let's talk about this fantasy stuff. You want to? We got some big news in the fantasy world too. Now that we've got the NASCAR business out of the way, let's get to this fantasy business.
So let's talk about.
The elephant in the room.
Yeah, go
Okay.
ahead.
You want me to do it, or you want to do it?
Well, I mean, I made a prediction over 3 weeks ago.
And what was that prediction again?
That prediction was after the Darlington race, Hunter would no longer be in first place, but it would take until Darlington.
Yeah, he had a big lead there for a little while.
Yeah. He was ahead of second place by 30 points at one time.
Yeah.
So I made that prediction that it would take 3 weeks, which would be the end of Darlington, that Hunter would fall to second place. And I'll be damned.
And what happened?
Man, I'm like 3 for 3 this year on making predictions.
You are doing pretty good.
I predicted that 1 week that I'd jump up 5 spots, and I went from
And you jumped up exactly 5 spots. I think you went from what, 12th to 7th or something like that?
And then I also predicted this past week that Darlington would be a green-white checker.
And that one came true too, yeah.
I'm going to predict next week that I'm going to hit the Powerball.
Okay. It's a good move right there. Good move.
So let's see.
Get the action while you're hot.
Let's see what the man upstairs has in store for this old boy. But
Well, I hope you do. I hope you make it 4 for 4.
I promise you that. Now Hunter, who's dominated this whole season and dominated pretty much the last half of last season.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy won it all. He's obviously doing something right. I don't know if he's got a magic lamp he's rubbing on. Or,
He's got the sports almanac.
yeah.
And
So-
I think he's had the lead except for the first 2 weeks. I think,
Yeah,
and
maybe.
that's recovering from the Daytona 500. So
Right.
everybody has that
But
trouble.
yeah, Hunter, Joe T is in first place now with 104 points, and Hunter's 8 points behind him with 112.
Thank you, Joe T. I've never met Joe T, but I like him already.
Right. I mean, if you're going to take a shot at the king, you better not miss, right?
That's right.
I mean, so.
He did it. And he did it by picking a winner last week at Darlington. So we have, just to go out and give a good shout out to the ones that picked a winner. You got Joe T, who's now at the top of the list. He picked Byron to win. You got Sam.
Sam's done great this year.
He has.
I mean,
He's done really good.
I know
picked
he had
a winner.
he had a rough season last year.
Yeah, he was towards the bottom last year, if I remember right.
But I mean, Sam has really just been on top of his game this year.
Mm-hmm.
He's right there in fourth right now.
Yeah, and then you have Jason H, who moved up 5 spots by picking Byron to win. And the one that I want to talk about is Jason A, who, I don't know what he's doing, but just a few weeks ago he was down towards the bottom. He was down in the 20-something range.
You're exactly right.
He picked, I think he's picked a winner like 2 out of 3 races or 3 out of 4 races or something like that. He picked Byron to win. Yeah,
Mom, look at Mom. Lou.
And that's who I was getting ready.
She's tied for ninth now. You know, here she was. She was in 25th.
I think she was dead last at one point.
No, Mike R has been a dead last.
Oh, has
he?
So Lou was down there 25th.
Right.
Okay.
Mom was down there in 25th, and here she is tied for ninth spot. And I mean, she jumped up 6 spots.
That's
crazy.
impressive.
Yeah.
That's impressive to go where she was at to where she's at now in just that short a time. That's pretty good. You're doing good, Mama Lou.
Yeah, I mean,
doing good.
That's the second biggest accomplishment she's made.
Go ahead and tell us the first one.
Raising me.
I knew it.
How's that a secret?
I thought HR was the baby though.
He is.
Okay.
Yeah. HR. Yeah.
All right.
That's Mom's baby.
Mom's baby. Always will be. Always has been. I actually jumped up 1 spot. I'm kind of proud of myself for that, even though I whiffed on picking Byron this week. But maybe next time I pick him, he'll do good for me. But
I think maybe if we both just listened to our guts, because you whiffed on Byron and I whiffed on Keselowski. I mean, I think Reddick ended up with a 22nd.
He's back there, yeah,
because of that wreck. But if I'd have listened to the little man inside of me, I'd be sitting with 4 points for Keselowski. So
yeah, and that's what I've been trying to do more of this year is going with the gut rather than overthinking, because overthinking just got me in last place last year.
And
so.
that's what I think everybody needs to do, because I mean it's only $50 to get in this. It's not life-changing money,
right? And $50 gets you a whole year
of fun,
entertainment.
Trash talk and fun. I mean it's pretty damn awesome. And
yeah,
we try to make it fun and affordable and entertaining for the common person. There's leagues out there that cost $350, $400. I mean, I can't afford that.
No.
But it pays out better, obviously. But
right. But you're also competing with probably hundreds of people.
Well, not
possibly
really either. Not really either. They pay what they do. Like a friend of mine, he runs one like that. What they do is they pay out. If you picked William Byron this week, if you picked him to win, you get $25. They put a side pot out there that every week whoever finishes best gets so much money that week. So I mean, if you win 6 races in a year, or even if nobody picks the winner and you get the best finish, like if I would have took Keselowski this week and he got 4th, but nobody picked the guy that came in 1st, 2nd, or 3rd, I'd get the money for this week. So I mean, there's other formats out there, and a lot of people prefer some over others.
Yeah.
But it's it's a lot to keep track of and everything like that. I just like to have fun for 10 months and
cheaply.
Yeah. $50. I mean, it's not gonna cost me too much.
Right.
And I mean, I got 5 kids. You know what I'm saying? So it's like.
Yeah. And I noticed that one thing that this league has done, I'm, like I said many times, I'm a Larson and a Busch fan now, but sometimes this league has me cheering against my guy.
Yep.
And that's weird for me because I've never done that before
Um,
until I got in this
well, I
league.
mean,
But
like me, I got away from the bush in the mid to late '90s. You know what I'm saying? I just it just went away. You know what I'm saying? You didn't see it anymore. But now that he's matured, I'm a fan of him. You
yeah,
know, but yeah, that's what it'll have you doing sometimes. I mean, it,
just because of league standings, I'm like,
you got skin in the game.
yeah, Hunter picks Kyle Larson. I'm thinking, well, now I got to cheer against my guy this week, and that's weird to me, but hey, there's a lot of pride in this league,
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
because I know HR Scotty's he won't let me live it down. I've been telling him for 3 weeks, I'm getting right past you, bud. Getting right past you. And I was like, ugh, right there. I was right behind him, like just a couple of points behind him. And he ended up picking. Who did he pick last week? I don't remember. He picked Chase Elliott,
Yeah,
who
he did.
finished third.
Yeah, he did.
And then my Denny Hamlin laid an egg. Thanks a lot, Denny. Uh,
You said that on
Finished
purpose,
12th.
didn't
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, he finished 12th. Had I went with Byron, who I wanted to go with, I'd still be 1 point behind HR. So,
Hey,
but
you
I'd be
know
in the
what?
top 10. But that's all right.
To win a championship, you gotta be in for the long haul. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying?
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yep.
That's the way I've been looking at it the whole time.
Turtle won the race, right?
That's right.
So
I've got 2 people I want to pass.
now, what I don't know is, will Hunter fall any farther than second place?
Josh is only 3 points behind him.
Right. Josh has been on a roll this year. I think he's picked 3 winners. I think he's got 3 wins this year.
You may be right.
Um, he Josh he's been on top of his game.
Let me pull up the archives here.
Yeah. Pull up the ridingthewall.com.
Ridingthewall.com. Going to the standings. Josh has 6 top 5s. He's picked 3 winners.
Yeah.
Jason A has picked 3 winners, and that's it.
And we pay out to the person at the end of the season with most wins as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So I mean, you can make your money back just off
just
picking
that
winners.
right there.
I mean, you can be in dead last, but if you pick the most amount of winners, you got your money back. You just played for free for a whole year.
Yeah.
So, and what we didn't tell anybody is whoever gets last place, what they got to do.
Do you want to go ahead and break that news?
No, we'll wait.
Okay.
We'll wait till mid-season. We'll wait till after the All-Star race.
Mike R is doing a pretty good job holding down that anchor spot.
Right. So that's going to be a entertaining challenge as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just going down looking through these standings. The points is so close. And that's what makes it interesting. In this format that we have, it makes it so interesting that we're halfway through the season and I'm sitting in 13th spot right now. But one good race, I could jump up 7 or 8 spots.
Yep. I mean, it don't take much.
Yeah.
Right now.
Or if you could be top 5 and you have one bad race, you could fall 10 spots, So it's...
Gotta love it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I love it. And I think my son Eric, who does all the social media, he does all the website stuff for us, and he's looking to play in this next year. So he hasn't talked to me a whole lot about the NASCAR stuff, but I just know, I can tell by watching him. I'm waiting for him to say something, I'm waiting, but he hasn't yet. But I can tell that he's learning. He's kind of taken this year to watch it, to learn, to see how we do things, and so he might be able to use some of this stuff for next year. But it's interesting to see that aspect of it, you know. And it's like you've said in previous episodes that just this league is just getting new people interested in NASCAR.
Right.
And
it's not about the payouts or the money or anything like that. It's loving the sport. It's embracing, the NASCAR environment. When we go to these races, It's like you're on another planet, man. I mean, it's like you're surrounded by tens of thousands of people just like you. You
Yeah,
know what I'm saying? And I've said it how many times on previous episodes that we went to Bristol for years now, every year, and we've never seen a fight. And there's so many people there, and,
yeah,
and but that's what you love about the sport. I mean, we should have seen one fight last year at least when Chase cut Harvick off.
oh yeah,
We
yeah.
should have at least seen one fight, but we
I was
didn't.
hoping to.
Right, I was ready to fight.
Yeah, you
I'm
was.
still ready to fight over that. But it's man, I mean, it's just so much fun. It's we'll be back this year, of course.
Yeah,
Um, but I mean, it's not just a sport to us. It's a lifestyle. We love racing. We've always loved racing. It's not just NASCAR. It's dirt tracks. It's figure eights. It's go karts. And me, you, and HR go way back on all that stuff.
oh yeah. There's a lot
And
of stories to tell about that.
right,
Um, and I know there's a lot of people out there that don't even know what a figure eight race is, but wait till you hear the stories.
right.
I mean, it's incredible. Um, Another thing I was going to say, we going to Bristol this year. I'm going to have us some shirts, some Riding the Wall shirts. To either, I know we'll probably have them on for a while. I don't know if we'll wear them all day, but we'll probably have them on for a certain amount of time during the day. But we may have some to give away also to just people
If
that
it,
come up and be
you know what? That's what we should do. Because last year, Chad and I, we go to Bristol. Me and Chad and his wife, we go to Bristol together.
Well, the
And
first time we didn't have her. It was just me
right,
and you, and
yeah,
I
we've
didn't know if
talked
we were going to come home.
we've talked about that too. But you know, last year we left Bristol undefeated in cornhole.
Yeah,
So we got there at 6 a.m. The race don't start till 6:30 p.m.
something like that.
So we get there at 6 a.m. Basically, take a 20-minute nap,
Yeah,
get out, start unloading the coolers, the grill. Jess fixed a fantastic breakfast on the grill. I mean, that's only happened once in my life.
yeah.
And she nailed it. But Chad and I left Bristol undefeated last year in cornhole. We played all evening. Nobody beat us. So maybe this year, if somebody shows up that can beat us, they get a Riding the Wall shirt.
There we go. There we go. I like that. I like that. So we'll see what happens. But
And
that's
Liz Allison, who is Davy Allison's widow,
Are you going to talk about this?
a little bit.
Okay. I didn't want to ask you about this because I didn't want to put this
Right.
out there for everybody.
I'm not gonna
Okay, go
get
ahead.
into details, but
Go ahead.
Reached out to Liz Allison. I don't know how long ago, but everybody that listens to this podcast knows that Davy's a huge guy in my corner. You know what I mean? But I'm not going to get into all the details or nothing like that. But this past week, going back and forth with her, I had told her, she does podcasts here and there.
Really?
She's an author. She's got numerous books out. Smart, just a fantastic woman.
Well,
Smart,
maybe we
beautiful.
can maybe
And-
we can have a podcast together sometime.
Right,
talk about the old days.
And this past week, I told her, I said, "Hey, Liz, if you ever get the chance, check out this podcast that my buddy Chad and I do together, and it's called Rod in the Wall. It's all about NASCAR and racing and stories, and I said, if you check it out, you'll listen to a few episodes, and I randomly talk about Davey Allison, how important this guy was to somebody just sitting at home watching the sport as a young kid was."
Yeah.
And how important it was. But maybe she'll get to check it out. So,
Well, I hope she does. I hope she does because those guys like Davey are why we are fans.
Right.
The Davey Allisons, the Alan Kowickis, the guys that never really had the time to show their full. Well, they could show their full talent, but maybe it didn't. Maybe what I'm trying to say is it their career didn't come to fruition, obviously. But
Right. But and another thing I told Liz was uh, how special it was for a she was a young bride, a young mom, a young wife. You know how special it was for her to share Davy with the NASCAR world because I mean a lot of wives, especially in their 20s and early 30s, would want that husband, that family, that new that new lifestyle to themselves, which rightfully so.
right,
But how special and selfless that is for somebody like Liz to share Davy with the whole NASCAR world,
yeah,
and not be selfish and not, I mean, she put herself on the back burner so Davy could do what he loved to do,
yeah.
and that's awesome.
I think it's
I
incredible,
mean,
and I think to go along with that, I think all the wives of
right,
these NASCAR guys just do not get enough credit for what they have to endure behind the scenes. Nobody knows what it's like to be a NASCAR wife, and it's got to be hard, especially. It's one thing to be the wife of a driver who only drives on Sunday, but then you start getting wives of people like Kyle Larson, who's out there driving
Tuesday,
6 nights
Wednesday,
a
Thursday,
week.
Friday. Yeah,
It's like, man, when do you ever have?
I didn't marry you to be alone.
Yeah,
You
when do
know,
you ever have date night? I
because
mean, you
I'm
got to
just
have that.
right. I'm just a factory worker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I get that from my better half.
Hmm.
You need to know when to come home.
Yeah.
You need to know
And you're home 6 nights a week. It's just
I'm home.
sometimes what I'm saying is you come home at a different time. Maybe you
Right,
might get home at 8 o'clock. Sometimes you might get home at 10 o'clock. Sometimes you
right,
might get home at 4. But
exactly. And just your average factory worker for me, and I know this from having friends in this, and just everyday life. But I mean, husbands and wives catch a hard time for being too involved with work, and for these ladies to stand behind their man or stand beside their man, even better, uh, while they pursue their dream is amazing,
yeah,
and it's appreciated.
hats off to all of them.
You
You know,
know, I
not enough respect is given to those ladies.
right, and their kids.
Yeah.
You know, and the kids. I mean, I'm sure they miss dad and everything like that just as much as moms do. But you know, it's I mean,
It's a totally different world that nobody would understand.
right, that even guys like you and I, Chad, that dreamed of being in that sport one day, but how much hell are these guys getting because they're William Byron. Let's start right there. This past Sunday when he won at Darlington, he got out of his car and hugged his crew and took his helmet off. And they asked him about his win there, and he said, "You know what? My grandpa died Thursday, and I'm sorry I can't be with the family."
Yeah.
But I mean, how dedicated can somebody be? And maybe they pushed his grandfather's funeral off till Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday or something like that, so he could attend. But just for that 4 or 5 or 6 hours not being with his family when they just took a detrimental loss is hard to step away from.
Yeah.
But he did it, and he went out there and won.
Yeah.
And we talked last week, when I talked about Darlington's memories and Chase Briscoe. Him and his wife went through that terrible loss with a miscarriage, and he said, "You know what? I'm going to go out there and win this race for that baby," and he done it. I mean, it's like it's so inspirational and it's so selfless, and I mean, it's you got to find that perfect person in this whole world that can stand beside you while you do that, and Liz was Davies.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah, like I said, those ladies, and we don't even know what they go through. We couldn't even imagine the personal lives of a driver, or the wife or the children of drivers. But they have to be someone special, and to find that someone special that can tolerate that is amazing. You've won the lottery when you've done that, and to have that person is incredible. So
Some Lisa don't even like me going to check the mail sometimes because I don't come back till fucking 11 o'clock. I mean, and you overlook some things like that. And that's I'm laughing about that. We laugh about that, but it's not an exaggeration. So, I've walked outside to go get something, and it's been 5 hours later. I'm sitting in the driveway drinking with some dude down the road.
Right.
And it's just the way it goes sometimes. But we laugh about it sometimes. But there's also times when she's like, your dinner's been on the table for 3 hours. You gonna come in and eat this or not? And but I mean, all them women are special, and we appreciate you, and don't ever take for granted that you're not appreciated.
Yeah. So. Definitely. Can't say that enough. They don't get enough respect, or I don't know if I should say respect. I think that they don't get enough recognition for all the stuff that they put up with. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll end it on that note. To all the ladies of NASCAR, we appreciate you.
Absolutely. Keep doing what you're doing.
That's right. Keep doing what you're doing. You're doing great. So that's our episode for this week. We'll be back next week to talk about Charlotte. Maybe, who knows, whatever happens at Wilkesboro this week, we'll discuss that.
Yeah.
And any kind of news that happens in between there. So,
right in the face.
Right in the face. Have a good week, and we'll talk to you next week.